Today we are going to make some pan-fried orange ruffy, which is a type of white fish, a creamy risotto, asparagus, and then we're gonna do a Parmesan oregano drop biscuit, a sourdough discard drop biscuit. So let's start by getting our onions minced up and sauteing for our risotto, because that's gonna be the item on our menu today that's gonna take the longest to cook. So we wanna get the onions start caramelizing up, and then we'll throw in our asparagus rice so that it can kind of give a nice little saute on it before we add our broth. So I'm gonna do kind of like a nice fine dice on the onions because I don't want them to be too overpowering their presence in the risotto. I want them to kind of blend with the kind of texture and sizes. We will also add a little bit of green onions to them later in the cooking process as well. But right now I'm just gonna kind of dice up a really small yellow onion. If you have a larger one, it's about a half. And now I'm just gonna go over it a couple more times just to make it a little bit finer. There we go. Oh, there's a whole little bit that didn't get chopped right there. Okay, and now I'm gonna add it to my 3-quart saute pan here. And we're gonna put in about, I wanna say, maybe 2 tablespoons of olive oil. We're gonna let that start to warm up. And let's add in our onions here. I'll let those kind of start to saute up. Get some nice kind of caramelization on it. Okay, I'm gonna give them a quick stir in that olive oil because I want them to get coated so none of them just stick to the pan. There we go. And now, while we're waiting for these to start caramelizing up, let's start prepping our drop biscuits to go in the oven. I'll slide this over there. So we are going to make a sourdough discard drop biscuit. So we're going to start by mixing together the liquid ingredients first. So we're going to start with 3/4 cup of whole milk. And then we are going to add in a 1/2 cup of sourdough discard. So let me find my measuring on here. And we want a 1/2 cup of the discard. Get a little spatula out here. Don't want any of that discard to go to waste. There we go. Slide these right over here. And we're gonna give a little stir, kind of get them kind of mixing together. And then we're gonna add in a 1/2 cup of melted butter. You're gonna wanna make sure your butter is kind of cooled a little bit so it's not super hot when you add it in. Mix these guys up. Now I'm gonna give my onions a little stir right here since that oil is nice and hot. I'm going to turn it down to about a 5, so medium. And now we are going to add in 4 teaspoons of baking powder. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then I grab my garlic salt over here. We're gonna add in about a 1.5 teaspoons or a 1/2 tablespoon of garlic salt. If you don't have if you don't have garlic salt, then do about a teaspoon of salt and 1/2 teaspoon of garlic powder. There we go. I'm gonna give this a nice mix. And kind of make sure that baking powder gets incorporated fully into my my wet mix. And this is gonna be for our Parmesan and oregano sourdough discard biscuits. And then we'll be working on our orange roughy, which is a white fish. We're gonna do a pan sear on that, and a lovely risotto. Okay, got that kind of baking powder mixing in there. Give this a quick turn. I'm gonna turn it down just a smidge more. Now I wanna prep up my oregano to go into my biscuits. So I've got some fresh oregano right here that I picked from my garden. You could use dry oregano as well, but fresh will be a little bit nicer in the biscuit. So I'm just gonna take off the stalks of them because those will be pretty, you know, like it'd be like you had a stick inside your biscuit. So we wanna get that off and just kind of use the leaves. Just pull these off as much, and then we'll give them a nice little mince up as well to kind of just get them into smaller pieces. And this is gonna be about a tablespoon of fresh oregano once it's kind of diced up here. Like I got a lot of little leaves on it.
You have a question, do you have to use oregano?
You don't have to use it. I'm kind of doing a play on a slight different version of cheddar bay biscuits. So I'm using oregano and Parmesan in them. So kind of similar concept, different flavor profiles, which I think will play well with our menu today. There we go. Get those last little bits. I'm gonna give my onions over here nice little stir. And then I'm gonna give these a quick little mince up real quick so that we don't have any really big leaves in there and that all the flavors can kind of get dispersed in our biscuits. I love oregano. I think it's such a great flavor. So I think it will, and it pairs really well with Parmesan cheese, so I think it will work great in these biscuits. And you could also use dried oregano if you have it, if you don't have fresh. I would use about a tablespoon of dried oregano. Okay, these look nice. We're gonna add this over here to our base of our biscuit mix. I want to get these spices in before I mix in the flour. That way I don't have to mix too much. There we go. Give these a nice little stir. We'll add some garlic in there in just a second. Okay, well, let's mix in the oregano. And then we're going to add in 2 cups of all-purpose flour. So we've got 1 and 2. And then I'm just going to mix them till they're partially mixed, but I'm not going to over mix. Then we'll add in our Parmesan cheese and then we'll kind of do the scoop. Really big thing is you don't want to over mix our biscuits. So I'm just going to do a really light mix here until it's just starting to incorporate, and then we'll add in a cup of Parmesan cheese. There we go. Perfect. Now before we add in our Parmesan cheese, let's work on our risotto because I want to get that cooking and the biscuits won't take long to bake. We're going to add in about a tablespoon of garlic. Leave the juices in there. Give these a nice little mix up. I want those flavors kind of crisping up in there for our risotto, so those then really will enhance well. And now we are going to add in a cup of arborio. I always say this wrong. Arborgio, but this is a rice used for making risotto. It looks a little bit different than regular rice. I'll kind of show you here. So it is kind of flat and fat. So it's different than like what you would eat normally with a like Chinese or Asian foods. So we're gonna put in a whole cup. And I might do a smidge more. I might do a cup and a half since I want enough for everyone. So we'll do a cup and a half. And we're gonna let it kind of cook up and toast in this oil for just about a minute or so. And then we'll start adding in liquids a little at a time and cover it. So you cook it a lot, for risotto, you cook it a lot different than traditional rice, but it gives it a nice creamy texture to it. So we're gonna let these kind of toast up.
Chat says it's arborio.
Arborio. I was like, for some reason I've always called it arborgio or something. I'm always known it's wrong.
There's no G.
I know there's no G in it, but it's one of those things where you say wrong your whole life and you just can't fix it. You know, it's like
Caramel.
no, it's caramel is the way I say it is correct. The way you say it is wrong. But it's like hotel suites. For some reason, I always call them suits, and they will always be suits to me, even though I know it's a suite, but it's a suit. One of those things. We're gonna add in about a cup of Parmesan cheese, which should be about half your bag. If you're using a bag, you could shred it yourself. And then we're just gonna mix this until it's combined. Again, do not over mix your biscuits or you'll get stiff ones. You want them nice and light and fluffy. So just kind of mix it until it's a little bit mixed, but not over mixed. You can have lots of crumbles, that's fine, because we're gonna kind of do a press and to hold them together. But again, these are drop biscuits. Okay, let me get my baking sheet over here.
You got a question? What's the type of fish you're making tonight?
Orange roughy, which is a white fish. Very similar to cod or tilapia. Has like you know, it's nice and white and flaky. Has a very mild sweetness to it. But it's a delicious fish. That, you know, you can get it fresh in a lot of places, or you can buy it in the freezer section. So here we go. So let's get our biscuits here. Might made them a little too big. Let's see. We're gonna go through, and when I'm forming them, don't press them too hard. Very delicately am I shaping them into their little balls. Let me stir my rice real quick. I don't want it to burn. I have it cooking nice and low. But you just want to do you're just barely pressing it together to make its form. I don't know if you ever played with like kinetic sand, but it's like when you're shaping a ball with kinetic sand, you can't like push it too hard or it loses its form. It's kind of what you're doing here. Somehow I keep saying, oh, I make them one size and I keep making them really big. I'm trying to make 9 biscuits here. I like nice big biscuits because they're fluffy. You can get a lot of that garlic butter on it. There we go. We might have to steal some, but you know what, we'll just keep it at 8. Problem is if you're like me and you've got a little OCD, you can't leave it like this, so I'm gonna have to visually make it more pretty. You know, like if you've ever made like meatballs and all of a sudden you don't fill up a row with your last one, I'm like, I gotta take from everything to get it. Okay, we'll pop those in the oven in just a second, but let's get this rice going. We're gonna give it a nice good stir here. You really want it to kind of saute up, toast up, there we go, that's the word I want to say. You kind of want to toast them up a little bit before we add in our broth. So I'm going to use water and chicken bouillon. So you could use straight up chicken broth, but I find chicken broth doesn't have as much flavor. You can also, if you want to make this a little bit more bougie, you could put in about a cup of white wine, or a half a cup to a cup. I'm out of white wine, so we're just going to use broth, and we're going to top it with a little bit of cream and Parmesan at the end to make it kind of like a creamy, cheesy, delicious risotto. There we go. Give this a stir. I feel like risotto had its like age in the early 2000s. I feel like that's when, Gordon Ramsay made it really big. If you ever watched Hell's Kitchen back then, you know, his pea risotto, I feel like that was on every episode for a while. We're gonna start with a little bit I'm gonna mix it around, give it a good stir, and then I'll add a little bit more. The trick is you add a little bit of the liquid at a time and you let it cook out and on higher heat, so it's not like with rice where you cook it out on lower heat and then you add more in as you go. So I'll probably add about 6 cups of broth to this by the time we're done to get that nice kind of silky soft. But let's put that lid on it and let's pop our biscuits in the oven. I have my oven preheated to 400 degrees. So these are gonna cook for about 16 minutes at 400 degrees. There we go. And I'm gonna set my timer here so I don't forget about them. Last time I made biscuits, I forgot to set the timer. Luckily, we got them out before they went too dark, but always set your timer. Okay, while that is cooking there, let's season up our orange roughy here. So this was actually 4 pretty big fillets that I cut into some smaller pieces because my little ones won't eat a whole fillet. So we cut it like this, and it's a little bit easier to fry them, like do a pan sear on them if they're a teensy bit smaller. So that's why we kind of trim them up. Let's season them. We're gonna season them with some onion powder, parsley, oregano, and some black pepper. So we're gonna keep it pretty simple, and then garlic salt, of course. But just pretty simple because we're gonna make a lemon thyme butter sauce. There you go, if I can pronounce that, with it to kind of drizzle over it. But I wanna keep it simple, like its flavors fairly simple and savory. So we're gonna sprinkle with a little bit of onion powder first. Give it a nice little coating. This is gonna give it a really savory flavoring. It's also gonna give it a nice kind of browner crust on it when you fry it. This is not gonna have any breading on it, so it's gonna be fairly simple. Let me sprinkle a little more on this one. There we go. Then we're gonna use some dried oregano, which I absolutely love oregano. And for cooking, pan frying it up, I will say the dried works better than the fresh. It clings a little bit better. It makes a nice kind of herby crust on it. We're gonna do a little bit of parsley as well. And we will be seasoning both sides of the fish as well. And then we're gonna do a little bit of ground black pepper. Keep it light, so I'm actually gonna hold it up a little bit higher so it sprinkles out a little bit more evenly without, there we go.
You have a question about what type of fish again?
This is called orange roughy, which is a white fish similar to cod or tilapia. Let me grab my garlic salt. It has a nice, very mild flavor to it, a texture similar to kind of a mix between cod and tilapia. It's more of a fluffy, flaky fish, and mildly sweet. So it kind of pairs well with, it's just kind of pairs well with any spices. Now we're gonna do a little bit of garlic salt over it. And then we're gonna flip these guys over and we're gonna season the other side as well. There we go. I will say they're not as flaky as cod. Cod is the very flaky white fish. But it is, like, I wanna say if you wanna judge the flakiness texture, it's about in between cod and tilapia. I think tilapia is a great white fish that is firm and holds its shape, more so than cod, but this is like a good hybrid in the middle.
You have a question. Do you think parsley adds flavor or just visual?
This is for visual. I find that dried parsley has no flavor whatsoever, but it will crisp up, and so it will give a little crunch on there. And it's more visual. The oregano will give it definitely will give flavor. But the parsley on here is just gonna kind of crisp up and give a little crunch on there, like an herb crust to it. But dried parsley I find has like no flavor. Fresh parsley, as long as you add it in towards the end of your cooking, has a lot of great kind of really fresh flavor, especially if you want to make a chimichurri sauce with it. Delicious. But it is one of those things that loses its potency pretty quickly. Okay, and then let's sprinkle a little bit of garlic salt over the top. Nice little shake here. And then these will be ready to pan sear in just a second. But let's check on our risotto. As you can see, it is steaming up over here. Beautiful. So we've already got kind of that first base in there. So I'm gonna give it a nice stir. It's already absorbed that water, or that broth, I should say. And now we're gonna add in a little bit more. Kind of cover it up. And I kind of do enough to kind of cover the tops of it, but I don't want to have it completely drowning, because you want to do it in process, like add a little bit more at a time, so that it just kind of soaks it up, but remains that texture of it, so it doesn't get super mushy. Risotto has a creamy base, which is made from that starch of the rice, but you don't want it to go to mush. You don't want it to turn into like a porridge. There we go. We're gonna let that steam up a smidge there. And we're not gonna cook the fish for a few minutes, because fish cooks up really, really fast. Let's prep our asparagus, because I'll pop those in the oven. These are pretty thick ones, so they'll need about 10 minutes or so. The thinner asparagus needs a lot less time. Oop, lost a guy. So with asparagus, and you might feel like you're wasteful when you do it, but trust me, it needs to happen. You want to cut off about the last inch of the stalk. So they dry out really quickly, and that last bit gets very fibrous and chewy and woody. And it's just not good. You'll just chew on it. It will be like you're chewing on a stick. So cut it off. That way you are left with just the tender part of the asparagus. And it's not wasteful. It's not going to be a good part to eat, because once it loses its water, it gets more fibrous.
I wouldn't stop there. I'd trim more.
Yeah, my husband does not like asparagus. Okay, we're going to add it out. I think asparagus is lovely. I taught my kids, I call it broccoli spears for them, so that the broccoli was their like first introduction to like green vegetables, and it's just as always stuck. Give it a light drizzle of olive oil. We're gonna sprinkle it with some garlic salt. You don't need much, because that salt will kind of cling on it, and we're gonna roll these back and forth. But we're gonna make a lovely like lemon thyme butter sauce, which I like to also pour over my asparagus. There we go. Let me give my hands a quick rinse, and we're gonna pop this in the oven with our biscuits. Put it right underneath. And these are gonna take about 10 minutes to cook, because they are the thick ones. If you get the nice thin ones, those will cook up pretty fast. So they'll come out a little bit after our biscuits here, which are cooking up lovely. They still have about 8.5 minutes to cook, so they'll get nice and golden. As you can see, our risotto is steaming up. Give this a nice little stir. It's not ready to add in any more broth yet. You want to wait until it reduces all the way down. But we'll give it a stir so we don't have any stickage. But this is what I will say, the saute pan by All Clad is great for making risottos, because it has that nice lip but a lot of surface area for cooking it off. And then of course the lid, that will help steam it. Okay, let's get our oil in, start heating up for our fish. And you don't need a whole lot. I'm using a non-stick pan, so I just kind of want a nice little light covering on the bottom of it, not too much. So that's probably about 2 tablespoons in there, because it is a larger pan. And then let's start on making our lemon butter sauce that we're gonna use to kind of drizzle over the fish and over the asparagus. I'm not going to use all of this butter, because that would be a lot, but you want enough to be able to scoop in and drizzle. So I'm gonna put about 6 tablespoons back there, which will probably still end up being more than you need, but I want enough to have being able to scoop it.
You have a question. What type of pans are you using?
So I actually have a wide variety here. This is my hex-clad 12-inch frying pan. I'm using the non-stick coating because it will be great for giving that kind of perfect little sear on our fish. And then this is the all-clad 3-quart saute pan for the risotto. I love it. And this is the Le Creuset stainless steel 3-cup saucepan. I actually have them all added into my Amazon storefront, so if you're interested, you can check them out. That link's in my profile page. But I love them. They all serve very different purposes. This is perfect for frying up, getting that really good sear on it. The non-stick makes it great for anything that you don't want to stick to your pan. Okay. There we go. We've got our rice is getting down. You can see almost all that liquid's gone now, so we can add in our next batch of liquid. I'm gonna add in the rest of this. And then we still have a little bouillon on the bottom, but I need to add in about 2 more cups because we did 1.5 cups. Okay. So you want about, for every cup of the, I can't even say the word again, arborio, oh, pat myself on the back for that. Arborio rice. You want, for 1 cup of arborio, you want about 4 cups of water. So it's like a 1-to-4 ratio because you're steaming a lot of it out. But it leaves you with a very silky kind of sauce on it. So we're gonna mix it up. Add a little bit more. And again, I kind of cover it to where the rice is just pretty much covered. And now we're gonna steam it back on. And then we're gonna start frying up our oil, since our oil should be nice and hot now. Let me check it. I'm gonna do my drop test. If my water sizzles right away, I'll know that it's ready. So we've got a nice sizzle on it. So we can start adding in our fish. This is gonna cook up pretty fast, especially since it's a thinner fish. It's gonna cook up, probably just need about 1.5 minutes on each side. I'm gonna start with my thicker fillets because they'll be resting versus my thinner ones. So I'm gonna do those thickies first. There we go. We're just gonna let them in there, and then you're just gonna let them pan sear. You don't wanna move them around or touch them much. You want them to kind of just sit and get a nice little crust on them. While that is waiting, let's make our thyme sauce that we're going to be putting on our lemon thyme butter sauce with a little bit of garlic. So we're going to add in about 1.5 teaspoons of garlic into our jar, or into our little 3-cup saucepan here. We're going to let it slowly simmer. Don't have it on too high because you don't want your garlic to kind of cook up. And then I have some fresh thyme here from my garden. And we're gonna add that in there to kind of infuse into it. So I'm gonna kind of pull off the big stalks in there, and then we'll give a quick little mince on it, because with fresh spices, the more cuts that you make into your spice, the more flavor that they'll come out. So instead of just putting in a full leaf, if you mince it up, you'll get a lot more flavor out of it.
You have a question. What type of fruit tonight?
I think tonight we're going to just have some leftover fruit that we cut up earlier. I have a little bit of cantaloupe left over, and then we have a bag of cherries. So no prep, although I have a watermelon that's been sitting, waiting for me to cut it up. It's literally like calls to me every day, cut me up. So I'm gonna probably get that tomorrow because I wanna get it cut up soon so we can eat it all before we leave on our camping trip. I'm gonna turn my back one down. I hear it starting to bubble. I'm gonna give it a little shake. And then we're gonna mince up this real quick. Let it go into that butter and let those flavors come out. I'll add in my lemon towards the end because I want that to really infuse into the butter first. So just a nice kind of fine little mincing here. Pick it up. I'm gonna add this into our butter. And then I have some green onions. These green onions are also gonna go into my risotto, but we're gonna put a couple in my butter. I'm gonna add the bit more lighter green to white parts. They're gonna go into my butter so they kind of get more of a flavor, kind of a bit stronger of a flavor. Give a nice onion flavor to it. There we go. And then these rest, towards the end of our risotto, I'll throw these green onion ends, the greener parts in, because they don't need as long to cook. And if you throw them in too soon, they will wilt really fast and they'll lose their kind of fresh flavor, the one that they want to go towards the end. There we go. Let's add in our next round of chicken broth. So this is now up to 6 cups. You can see how it is coming along beautifully. They're getting nice and light and fluffy. And what you do is you want to cook them until the risotto is soft but still has its form. There we go. Put that on there. Our fish is probably getting ready for it to flip. Yep.
You have a question? Are you going to go live while camping?
That is our plan, assuming everything goes well, that, you know, we've got signals and whatnot, but we will. We'll be staying in nearby a couple national parks and national forests. So we plan to do kind of our breakfast cooking and our dinner cooking, because we do those typically at our campsite, and then during the day we kind of grab out while we're doing our adventures. Okay, let me get this. I turn this down a smidge, and our biscuits are calling us, so we're gonna go check those out real quick. They should be done. Now it just depends, sometimes biscuits need a little bit longer, so I'm gonna go by how they look, but I'm pretty sure they're gonna be good. Lovely. They're starting to crack apart beautifully. So let's grab our biscuits. They don't pop out quite as, they're not as golden as cheddar biscuits because they don't have cheddar in them. We're gonna keep that one up at the top. Beautiful. So you can see they've got that nice kind of golden edges where the Parmesan is coming through, but they are looking gorgeous. I will say with biscuits, you can tell when they're done. As you can see, they've started to crack apart. So they're blonder because they don't have the cheddar in them, but they are finished and delicious. And before we add in our lemon juice, this is why I didn't add my lemon juice in it, we're gonna take a little bit of this herby butter and we're gonna brush it over the top of our biscuits. So I'm gonna add a little bit of garlic salt in here, but we have our green onions, our thyme, a little bit of garlic salt and garlic in there. And we're gonna just brush it over the top of each biscuit. This is gonna add a nice bit of flavor to it. There we go. And you wanna do this before you add the lemon into it, otherwise you'll have a lemony flavor to your biscuit. But this is the way you don't have to get 20 different pots and pans out. There we go. Beautiful. Perfect. That will give just a bit more flavor. Okay, let me grab a small plate to put these guys on. Like I said, fish cooks up fairly fast. There we go. This one's split apart. I have to take you in 2 pieces. So I've got my first 4 fillets done. Those are about 3 to 4 ounces each. I had about 30 ounces of orange roughy here. There we go. gonna slide that to the side. I'm gonna get a little squeeze of olive oil right here in the middle because I didn't have quite enough. Let me slide this guy underneath there. There we go. I'm gonna let those cook up nicely. Beautiful. So we're gonna let those simmer for just a second here. Now we're gonna take the lid off of our risotto here. Put it right over here. We're gonna let it finish cooking with the lid off. That way it reduces down, but you can see it's got this lovely kind of creamier texture to it. And it's nice and light and fluffy. Let's add in our lemon juice for our lemon butter sauce first. We don't need a whole lemon for it, otherwise it will be a bit too tart. We're going to use just about a half of lemon. Give this a nice little stir. We'll let it reduce down, that lemon juice. And then we're going to add in a smidge of cream as well. About 1/4 of a cup. That way you have a nice little saucy base. Give it a little stir. And kind of mix it. That lemon will help that butter and that cream come together for it to melt. And then we're going to check on our asparagus in just a second. They'll be done in a few seconds. They had a couple minutes that they needed to go past the biscuits, because remember we put them in when there was about 8 minutes left. I'm going to turn this all the way down to low. We don't want it. We'll flip these, and then we're going to grab our asparagus out of the oven, because we're down on the final countdown. And look at this lovely crust. That's what these, see how those herbs are going to give you that nice little crunch on it, like a blackened fish, so it's delicious. I'm going to go grab our asparagus out of our oven. With asparagus, you want to cook them until they have a nice, vibrant green color. If you go any longer, they'll start to turn a yellowish brown, which means they'll be a bit mushy. So cook them until you have a vibrant green. We're gonna add in, we're on like the final countdown here, guys. We're gonna add in about 1/4 a cup of cream. This is gonna give our risotto just a nice creamier texture. It's already very creamy, but we're gonna be adding in green onions and Parmesan cheese to it. So we've got about 1/4 a cup of cream in there, 1/4 a cup of green onions, and then we're gonna add in, that's 1/2 a cup of Parmesan. And you want to add this at the very, very end, because if you add it too soon, what will happen is it can burn to the bottom of your pan. I'm actually going to turn off my pan now and just let the residual heat cook it up. There we go. But look at this luscious, creamy risotto with onions, green onions, chicken broth, Parmesan. And it's going to be delicious. Okay. Got that off. These are just about ready. Let's get our sauce. Let's look at our sauce here. Beautiful. I'm going to turn that off. And I'm going to turn our fish off, because our fish is ready as well. And then we'll be ready to plate. I always love it when they get this. This is my favorite, when you get a lot of that crispy crust on it. That's my absolute favorite. It'll have a lovely crunch. Okay, let's grab a plate, and we're gonna serve up. Okay, let me grab all of my stuff for serving. I'm gonna use my shovel for my rod. If you've ever tried to spoon out with a spatula like this, it just goes everywhere. And then Got my tongs. We'll grab another spatula for the fish. Okay. Let's slide. Let's start out. We've got our oven roasted asparagus with olive oil and garlic salt, so it should be nice and tender. And then we have our creamy risotto that we made with onions, Parmesan cheese, chicken broth, our green onions, all a lovely kind of creamy flavor to it. And we've got our lovely orange roughy that we'll be serving with a delicious lemon thyme sauce that we made with butter, lemon, cream, garlic, and fresh thyme from our garden. I love to add some on our asparagus. And then last but definitely not least, we have our delicious biscuit made with Parmesan and fresh oregano for a delicious dinner. Well guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I try to do live cooking shows every single day, show you what we're making for our family, and hopefully teach you guys something along the way. Again, we do upload all of our videos to the link on our page, so if you ever want to recreate any of our recipes at home, you can just go to that link on our page, search for the title of our recipe, and watch and cook along with me again at home. We also have an Amazon storefront, so if you had any questions about any of the cooking things that we used today, like our frying pans, our utensils, all that jazz, we have it all there as well. Well guys, thank you so much for joining us here today. Don't forget to like and subscribe.